Yo, what up? Welcome back to Plat Overwatch. We're here with episode 124. Wow, it's been a while. This off-season's been long, but we actually have some stuff to talk about, and hopefully we will continue to have stuff to talk about. Sorry about Bren. He's we were planning on recording, but he hasn't turned up yet, and we have to get on with it. So, you know, we'll just deal with that as it happens. So yeah, the stuff to talk about this week is actually pretty decent. Matt can't be on the episode because we're going to be talking about leaks, and he knows far too much about whether they're true or not. But the rest of us know very little about a lot of things in life, so we can have conversations. And then there was that Overwatch 2 live stream as well that we wanted to crack into as well. You did a co-stream for it, didn't you, Connor?
No, not the dev live stream. I just did it for the O2 Shock co-match.
Oh, I saw tons of people. Tons of people were doing the co-stream for that dev.
I wasn't able to do a co-stream for it at the time because I was like doing with a bunch of a crazy time in the corpo world lately. So I haven't had time to
Borpa business.
That one.
What is it?
Yeah, it's been Borpa business. It's been Borpa business time. So if Matt was here, we could talk about that. You know, we could send emails back and forth, set up meetings and conferences. But overall, did not do a co stream, but I did watch it. I did watch the dev co stream, and it's interesting shit. It's some interesting shit there.
Yeah. So what were the big takeaways? I mean, the big takeaways were like Doomfist was confirmed to be a tank. That was something that they discussed. We kind of already knew that.
Ping system is cool.
What? Sorry.
Ping system is cool.
We already knew about the ping system, but yeah,
but it sounds cool.
Yeah. What? Yeah. I mean, do we want to touch a little bit on the ping system first? Was there anything new shared in this video about the ping system? Anything unusual about how it works or what we can expect from it?
They explained a bit how it works, yeah. They were basically like, you can ping someone and it remains on them until they like walk around a corner or like disappear, like using, you know, an ability to like Moira's Fade, I think the reference or something like that. So it's more like a tracking system, sounds like, which is pretty cool in many ways because that would mean that you could like target focus down.
Yeah, that's pretty
heroes
interesting.
Having to communicate stuff like that. So, what the?
Baboo! Sorry to interrupt. Special episode today.
Where have you been?
What's going on? Are you going to go kill John Wick? What's going on?
John Wick.
Word on the street is we have information about Overwatch 2.
Yeah, we've got a little bit. Yeah, we've got some. So you got dressed up, huh?
I see.
Such an interesting episode. You had to get dressed up in a suit to discuss Overwatch 2.
I tell you, we got some big news to talk about.
Okay, sure. Sounds good to me.
You look like the son that was going to be hunted down by John Wick in the various movies. You look like the mobster's son that was just like everyone hated that guy, and he's like hiding. He's like, Dad, you got to protect me from John Wick, and like that's kind of your vibe right now with that getup. It's good though. It looks good though.
Wait, Avast, can we explain your vibe real quick? It somehow got more desolate.
What about it? So this room is being renovated, and so they've taken out the bunks where they kept the prisoners. And now it's just a blank wall that I'm using to record essentially until they add the new furniture, because this is not, like I said, it hasn't been my office for a while. So it's just blank walls in this room.
Incredible. It's almost a regression. You expect somebody to get more and more set decoration or more something going on in the background, and you are going further and further away.
Yeah. Well, eventually, I will be in a room that probably will have more life in it, but for the time being, it's easier for me to use this abandoned room. So.
Bren reminds me of Ralph from Sopranos. I don't know if you guys watched Sopranos.
I haven't watched
I can't stop seeing it now. Yes. And he just looks like
See,
Ralph
it's a mobster. It's just mobster vibes.
Yeah. It is. He's about to... I mean, literally, whatever. We'll get into
Can we get down
this.
to business?
Yeah, let's...
Wait, you're doing him so dirty with that picture.
Dude, I actually have that hairline.
Yeah, you do.
And it's I mean, he doesn't have the suit on then, but you know, he's part of the gang.
Oh
he's not a good person, Bren. He's
not
a good person. He's not someone to model yourself after. No. Most of the people in Sopranos aren't particularly. But okay, dev live stream.
What happened?
So you just walked in, poured yourself a cup of tea, you got a suit on, interrupted the show. We were talking about an Overwatch 2 dev live stream that happened. Yeah? Where they were talking about the alpha, they were talking about the ping system, they confirmed Doomfist was a tank, they had Aaron Keller talking to Zoe.
Date.
Huh?
Dates?
I think we already had dates before this, didn't we?
No, they didn't. They didn't have this. They just said late April. Now the confirmed date for the beta is April 26th.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So they had said late April, and then they confirmed it to be April 26th. Okay. All right. Well, that lines up. That is late April. So that's good. That's good for everybody to know.
Also, it does. The interesting part about that date is that it's a week before the Overwatch League start date. So that means the public will have access to the beta for a week before Overwatch League starts, which I think is cool because a lot of people were speculating it was going to happen like either the same week or after Overwatch League started. But now that means that people will actually be able to look at the game that is going to be being played professionally as well. Like they actually have some sort of grasp on it.
Right.
Does everyone get access?
No, it doesn't sound like it. They
I mean,
said for the dev stream,
right?
you have to sign up, and they didn't really fully elucidate how the system is going to work.
Elucidate.
Yeah.
But they did. Yeah,
large
I'm
word.
using a
It
lot. I'm
means
using a lot of
lubricate.
vocab words today. Yeah, that's. I mean, sure. Sure.
Well, no, they didn't actually talk about anything about who has access because people were befuddled when they tuned into an XQC stream and he just pulled up the alpha. He just tabs in and it's just Overwatch 2 as the loading screen and he's like, oh, fuck.
I think afterwards, actually, in the clip, he's saying, oh, fuck, dude, I'm going to go to jail. Which is, I don't know. There's something very funny about it.
Also, it's kind of rude for me to say this, but like, what were the odds that like XQC would do that? That's like Josh leaking a player move. It's like,
I know.
Who else? You
Listen,
know, it just
even if I was involved with the Overwatch League this year, I wouldn't blame them if they didn't let me into the alpha or the beta or anything because I would be leaking.
Look at his face. Dude, look at his face.
Oh my god, man! It's actually incredible though that this is the first like leak, like big leak from any sort of creator of sorts.
Yeah.
Like that's the first one. That's actually pretty impressive to me.
That is quite impressive, honestly. It shows you the kind of punishments that they've got in the NDA, I think. Like fucking thumb screws and stuff that Blizzard can legally use if you violate their NDA. Not bad, not bad. I mean, a leak like that, though, is only good for the Overwatch 2 people because it generates enough hype without actually showing anything. It didn't show a thing. There was not a single thing leaked.
They snuck him like $2,000, just like, hey, pop it up on stream, 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
We'll get on Reddit.
He wouldn't be able to coordinate that. He wouldn't be able to do that. I don't believe it. All right, what else did we get from this dev live stream? What Connor, walk me through it.
Should I undress?
No. I like you being
you
in your suit.
I think it's nice.
Well, it sounds like there's not much to talk about.
No.
There is. No, listen.
There's stuff to talk about in a second.
I got dressed up because I thought it was a special occasion.
Well, there's some special occasion thanks to Yiska later on because he got a bunch of leaks out there into the public. But this live stream...
I'm putting a thing in live chat.
They talked about the ping system.
Yeah.
They talked about the release date, and then they also started talking about the some of the people that they have access to it so far, which was like the pro players, obviously, friends and family, and then trusted partners, which XQC is of that list apparently. I don't know. Apparently he's a trusted
Maybe
partner.
banned from the Overwatch League, but a trusted partner.
Leaks Overwatch 2 under NDA on stream. So, I mean, like, it implies that obviously, and I think we would have to be stupid to not already know this, is that there's a bunch of content creators likely already in the Overwatch 2 alpha. Like, a lot of them that are currently under NDA. If XCC has it, there's no doubt that all the major content creators, especially ones that are relevant to Overwatch, are in there currently. So that's what's kind of like, obviously,
you have it, Josh?
State.
What, sorry?
Do you have it?
I'm not a content creator, mate. And also, if they gave it to me, I would have already shown it on stream. That's how you know. That's how you know.
And then they confirmed the Doomfist rework. He's now a tank.
Yes.
He's no longer a DPS.
We'll talk about that later on as well, because I want to run through Yiska's article where he talks about that.
Yeah. But they officially confirmed that, though, in the live stream. I'm saying we're just running through everything.
Didn't they say
officially
that, though?
No, they hadn't
No,
officially
no,
stated that
They've
before.
never officially
They
confirmed
said
it.
everything's on the table at some point. We've even been testing Doomfist as a tank.
They said
Yeah,
they've
but they
been
didn't confirm.
considering it, but that was months ago. They hadn't said that was something they'd implemented.
Okay.
At the time, I think the article Bren is referencing, they were like, at the end of the day, he's a DPS hero and he doesn't have a tank ability. So yeah, I guess we'll have to figure that out. So they were far away from him being a tanker at the time.
Yeah. Well, now they've given him a shield. He's just got a really big shield like Reinhardt. What else was there? Connor, you wanted to touch on a little bit like their patching philosophy as well, because they'd been talking about the idea of like having the pros integrated into the alpha has given them new ideas about what is overpowered and what is potentially needs to be tweaked. I know that they were discussing that kind of system, and then people were posting memes about Jake terrorizing the devs. There was a meme that I saw where it's like a young girl hiding underneath a counter, and it's just Jake coming around the corner like the Terminator in like these alpha games.
I think it splits, like, so it's kind of due to two discussion points here. And like Johnny did technically write this down in our live chat, so we had a bit of a guide, but like we do have two discussion points. One, is this dev stream what we really wanted them to do? This is the first thing. Did we actually want this dev stream? And secondly, what the fuck are they doing? So that's like that's the second part of it.
I mean, that's kind of wild. All right. Well, first of all, let's tackle the first one. Is this kind of communication what we're looking for? Because the community has been just desperate for any news about anything, and then when they get a live stream that tells them some little bits and pieces, they're like, you didn't tell us anything, this was a waste of time. Like, fucking, who was it that someone had a clip where they were just asleep or something? There was literally a highly upvoted clip that was on, I think, the competitive Overwatch subreddit of, I want to say it was Red Shell, but I don't know exactly who it was, of just a streamer just asleep listening to the devlet live stream. And just that was the community reaction, was just like, this was boring. You can't always only get juicy shit.
Well, I think
there has to be some level of communication that's just the normal stuff.
But I think it's the fact that it was radio silence for so long, and then it was like, you get a trickle.
Yeah.
You're allowed a little bit, which I
it's
think...
It's refeeding syndrome. If you give them too much, they'll die.
Yeah. I think it's fine as long as they do more Overwatch dev live streams like in the future. If they're planning them on a more regular basis, but they're slowly going to release more and more information in the lead up to the beta, like that's good. But if this is just one small little section that they wanted to just release, and they're like, the masses will be happy now.
Right.
But in reality, you've just been starving them for so long that they've stormed the castle. The town is on fire. They've taken the grain. You're not going to be able to feed.
No, I think it was a great initiative. I mean, I'm happy that we get these dev streams, and I hope we continue to get them. But I think it's like you guys said, like there's just been radio silence for so long that by the time they actually go live, you're just like, what's going on? Like, tell us about the leveling system in PvE, which isn't done yet, because they just want big announcements. But I'm appreciative of just the smaller things. Then again, it wasn't perfect. Like the fact there wasn't no gameplay footage at all, I think was a big oversight. But if they reiterate on this concept, they, work on it. We get every week, every 2 weeks, we get an update for an hour, talk with some devs, maybe talk to an audio designer, talk to an animator, talk to whatever it is. Just like some small insight into the minds of Team 4 with some gameplay and maybe unveiling a small system. Just like the ping system. Just show us like 15 seconds, 20 seconds of the ping system and how it works. Just show us a video. And everyone would have loved it. Do
you think that's the problem, that it would have been better received by the community if they'd made something short and sweet that actually showed some footage? They talk about Doomfist as a tank, and they show 5 seconds of Doomfist playing tank, so you see like the ability icons or something. Do you think that would have got people more excited? Or even the ping system, like talk about the ping system in a 10-minute video, show 15 seconds of the ping system. Would that have made people more excited than like an hour-long live stream where they talk the whole time?
It's different content, right? I mean, for the longest time, we've had these YouTube videos where they're like, I don't remember what they're called.
The developer updates.
The developer updates, and they kind of work as like one kind of content. But also, if you told me that we would get these bi-weekly developer streams, I mean, start a podcast, start an Overwatch podcast, like every 2 weeks, and just like for an hour, talk to a dev about something cool.
Whoa! Don't give him any ideas, man.
I think it's a great idea. It's just some better execution, and it would be perfect.
Mm.
And the viewer expectation is more in line with what they actually will get.
Okay, well, let's go on to the second part of this topic, which, Connor, you framed it as, what the fuck they doing? But
I actually had. I'm gonna add an addendum. To the last topic.
Please do.
I have a lot of key points. I have a lot of points. I mauled it. I'm not gonna lie. I mauled it watching this dev live stream. But it's not because I didn't appreciate that they were doing it. It's because it was clear they didn't know what they wanted to do with the product. Like Johnny mentioned, like the developer updates with Jeff Kaplan. That was a really good piece because you had a central figurehead where Jeff could calmly explain shit to you, and it was all scripted. Like, who knows if it was fully scripted, right? But at least he probably had like a bullet of points of like things he was going through, and he could follow through. And also, if he ever fucked up, they could just cut it. He could go again. You know, like that's the good thing about VOD content. Live stream content is very different than like a VOD style content and how you present it. And the reality is, Aaron Keller, in developing, like when he talks about the game of Overwatch, it's like trying to it's like he's speaking not English. Like he's like, it's so garbled and like just like running over his own points. He's not a great presenter like in a live stream format. He's probably a great presenter in a VOD format. I think a lot of the problems that people had with the dev live stream is that this was clearly like thrown together. They wanted to have some content for the people to have some communication, but they didn't think about like how to present it. They didn't think about like what's our manner we're going to present it, like how concise, like what's the level of detail. They just threw them. I felt like it just threw them in front of a screen and let them talk, you know. And I felt like that's not what people want. You want to have like a direction when you do your communication, or else people are going to feel frustrated, especially if you don't have like substantial stuff to show them. And Johnny, I think your point was a really good point where you said like when they do a dev live stream, they should be accompanying it with assets. Like here's our ping system. Like, here's what we've been working on. Here's like this snapshot of the game that we can focus and talk about in a live format that we can't really do as well in a VOD format, or like it feels like more organic, right? I think if the devs don't feel as comfortable, or at least aren't as, in my opinion, as good at delivering communication in a live format, they should just do it in the developer update style that Jeff Kaplan used to do. And I think they could like make it a lot better because they can cut the pieces they don't like. They can give them a bullet point of stuff to go through. They can rehearse it. They can go over stuff, and they can probably feel less pressure than talking in front of an audience, because it felt like that was the big issue, was that they just weren't comfortable doing the live stream and talking succinctly.
Maybe a VOD format would help that, but also Jeff was just a special case where I remember the Overwatch World Cup in 2018. We were behind the stage and they were announcing something, and Jeff's just walking out there. He doesn't have an in-ear, doesn't have a script prepped.
No.
And the man was just going out there and winging it. Yeah. Like he was actually just going out there and winging it with the.
Yeah, but that's still just like, that's the fact of life with like everyone that's not comfortable with live speaking. They're probably better just put in front of a camera and letting them do a couple takes versus just a live speak, you know?
No,
you
for
can
sure.
rehearse it.
I
You
agree.
can be a lot more concise. And I think that was the biggest issue that a lot of people had, was like, yeah, there wasn't a lot of information presented, but they also presented not a lot of information over like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So they needed to just like, if you're going to present nothing, do it in 10 minutes versus an hour and a half, right? Like that's just like a more concise form of communication. And I don't think
that's our job to present nothing over the course of an hour and a half.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing here.
That's what we need to do. So that's my biggest complaint with them, is that they just probably need to refocus the way they want to communicate and think about it a little bit more effectively, because I don't think there's anything wrong with dev updates. I think it's great. I think more communication, fantastic. But if you're just sitting there just talking over yourself for like an hour, no one's going to like it.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Sure. Yeah, listen, Aaron Keller, if you step onto our turf and start ringing your bullshit over an hour and a half, I'll send Ralph onto you, all right? and then you will not like what you get.
Yep. Do you see these skinny arms?
That's power right there.
Okay.
That's power.
That was the first half of the discussion.
I didn't think we'd start the Overwatch podcast by threatening Aaron Keller.
Well, it's not a real threat. I don't want it to be framed like that.
I'm not your hired muscle. You can't just wave me around as this.
You're not muscle. Never mind hired muscle. You're neither hired nor muscle.
I don't know. You got the dress for it, Bren. You got it's the implication of muscle.
Yeah, he's dressing for the job he wants.
You ever been to a club and you see like the fucking scrawny dude and the big dude, and the scrawny dude checks the IDs? I'm the scrawny dude who's checking the IDs. Yeah.
Okay. Connor, I think you had another aspect to your molding as well.
I did. So the
Do you want to take a deep breath?
What is this, the Connor show?
I don't know.
I mean,
what is this point you got?
It seems like no. Did anyone else watch the live stream here? Or was it just me?
So I didn't, but I also wasn't supposed to be on this episode. So
fair. So Bren has
I have an excuse.
Bren has an out. So Bren's complaining. Like I just have a lot of points to say.
No, I was making a little joke. I was about to make another joke. I was like, well, you're not allowed to talk in prison? They don't give you talking time?
I watched the highlights of it afterwards because it's too long for me to bother watching. I just get the cliff notes afterwards. It was like over an hour, wasn't it?
I did the classic like armchair analyst thing where I was just like reading the reactions to it. And that's what I'm basing my opinions off of.
Incredible.
Well, then I'll just lead and we'll leapfrog because everyone here can leapfrog based off these points, and we can have good discussion.
Please do.
That's a good thing about a podcast. Is that so? The second part is they talked about the feedback. We talked about some of these key partners. We like the pros. They talked about how they had like obviously there's content creators in this. They have friends and family and shit. John Spector was there and he's talking about like, oh yeah, I got my cousins in it. And like I'm frothing at the mouth at that, by the way. I'm just like, oh, you got your little cousin in there? What, he's gonna do arithmetic afterwards when I'm ready to like get me in there, John? And then so that's the first part. And then
always done friends and family stuff. Like, are you surprised? That's normal.
I mean, I know, but I'm just like, come on, man. Like,
you're not friends and you're not family.
Get what feedback is he gonna give you? Like, he doesn't have anything to. He's not gonna tell you anything nice. So then they're talking about how they found it surprising because they found it surprising how weak supports and main tanks were in this alpha build, and they found that a lot of this feedback from the pro players and like these partners was really helpful because they like didn't even consider that. And I'm sitting there like, you didn't consider that supports would be weaker minus a tank to peel for them. And then they brought up like all these various design philosophies of like how it was fairly obvious to anyone that had played like how it was going to play out. And then it was a positive note though, because they said like, okay, we're getting this feedback from the players. Good. But like, it made me still rip out my remaining hair because I'm like, holy shit, these people are designing the game. Because like, it's just like, I trust them a lot with the game design philosophy, but it's very clear there's still a huge disconnect, even after 4 or 5 years of Overwatch 1, of like how the roles interact within the game. And it kind of scared me a little bit. But I am very glad that they have it seems that they've made sure to get players in early to give feedback so we can. And I think they've learned from those mistakes so they can like start balancing it early. Because then they also said like, oh, we weren't planning to patch like the alpha really at all. Just roll the alpha to the beta. But then we've already made a patch because of some of these suggestions and stuff. And I'm like, you weren't going to patch the alpha? The thing that's supposed to be the most raw form of it, the most magma.
Well, it's just a label that you apply to it. If they think it's ready to roll out to beta, then.
Well, but even so, you introduce the alpha to the pros and to content creators and whoever else because presumably you're looking for feedback to patch.
In the days,
what do you do?
In the modern days of game development, it's not really the case anymore.
But we're not playing for Overwatch 2 early access.
Alpha's used as a term of development in terms of like when they're releasing it for very close testing, and then beta just goes to the next stage.
But think about what's happening. As soon as the beta's released, there's 1 week before pro games.
Yeah, great.
So if you're not planning to patch between alpha beta, you've got a week to fix it before it's happening in Overwatch.
I would have been amazing at casting that. Just literally using the word pandemonium every fucking cast, every single second, every map.
Yeah.
Chaos.
So it was just concerning to me hearing those things because I was like, you weren't planning to patch and you didn't expect any of these basic hero interactions to take place that everyone knew was going to take place. Like you didn't think Zenyatta without a Diva to peel was just going to get absolutely butt blasted by Tracer 24/7. Like you didn't think about this. So it was concerning, but I think I'm still positive. I'm not going to histrionics yet because of the fact that they've included pro player feedback early. But it was concerning to me.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Please do.
I think despite the fact that like obviously the game Overwatch 1 didn't get that many heroes introduced in the later, obviously recently at all. But I think this might be a hot take, but I felt like the balance went into a much better direction in the last 2 years of the game. Does anyone agree with that?
I don't think that's a hot take.
No, that's not a hot take. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Was it the last 2 or was it just the last 1?
Well, I think Echo was released like 5 years ago. So I don't know. I've lost track of time.
Echo was released.
I was literally 2 years ago.
Yeah, Echo was on the dot released about 2 years ago.
Yeah, so Echo was like kind of really overtuned, but then when they went through like the phase of balance changes, I felt like the game generally was in a good place. personally. But,
yeah, no, I felt like last year was pretty excellent balance. Yeah. But that also could just be luck. I mean, 1 year out of 6, you're probably gonna get it decent.
Well, here's how I think about it as well: is that they shifted over a lot of the development cycle to Overwatch 2 at a certain point, but somebody had to manage Overwatch 1 and doing the balance for that.
Yeah, the intern was doing the balance, and that's why it was good.
Promote them. I'm not going to lie. Like, seriously, because somebody had to be managing like the PvP aspect of Overwatch 1 while all that was going on, while the development was focusing on Overwatch 2, and that's largely PvE. And it's clear that
still be the same team, though. I think they'd just be splitting time.
Listen, I can't comment on it. I don't know the internal dynamics of these developers. Sorry, Johnny, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was you're discussing about how the balancing team operates.
Yeah, but this is my theory crafted in my head, though, is that obviously when they're shifting players over, it would have to give more responsibility to like the management of the balance. Like somebody would take ownership of that, I guess. And whoever that is, listen, promote him. Because give him a bit more power. Give him more power. Give him control of the whole system.
Complete unbelievable speculation into how the hierarchy of the balance team works.
It's probably just,
do you think Jeff Goodman was just like, hey, intern from USC or whatever, can you just balance Overwatch 1 and I'll work on this Overwatch 2 stuff?
Well, also, this is all, I think it's besides the point, because it's obviously easier to balance with a game that's been out for like 5 years and you know the exact confines of the game at this point. Like, to me, balancing the game in the last 2 years is the easiest it's probably ever been, because like they've worked out all the systems. They have a framework to work with, and all they're doing is just taking input. It seems like they just got better at taking player input and just putting it back into the balance. But now we're going to Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2, I should say, or Overwatch 2 early access, depending on what happens with the beta. I don't know. And like we're going out there and we're redesigning all the systems again. And it seems to me when I look at these interactions, they still didn't understand some of the hero interactions without getting pro player feedback, right? Like intuitively, like I'm just asking you a question. Intuitively, after your experience with the Overwatch League product and Overwatch, wouldn't you assume that Zenyatta is quite weak to Tracer without Diva, right? Like you would just assume intuitively, without someone to peel for Zenyatta, he's quite weak to Tracer or to a dive hero. But they were reacting like this was like huge news to them, that like -1 tank meant that supports were weaker. But this is like but I'm saying overall it's a positive thing. It's a positive thing that they've integrated. They've integrated. I'm trying to not maul the completely.
No, I get you.
Get off this topic.
I get you.
I can already see the comments from people. It's like, dude, why are they even talking about this? If only Connor watched it. If only Connor and Johnny watched it.
I will say, this is, sorry, Bren, I interrupted you.
Yeah, go ahead.
But sorry, Bren. I did say
I'm not
this
going to
last
break
week.
your knuckles. I might be dressed for it, but I'm not going to do it.
Oh, no. Knowing Ralph as well.
That's a weird bone to break.
Last week, I did say like 2 months is of course like a decent amount of time to actually prepare for the Overwatch League. But I am worried that like the pros, they play the game entirely different from like some of the testers, and developers, and they can really push it to different limits. So I'm hoping that they can sort some of this stuff and actually get it ready for the Overwatch League. So the first week of OWL is actually like genuinely really good Overwatch 2 gameplay, because I think that's going to be quite difficult to balance that out. And I think this also sets the precedent to some degree that for future hero releases, you should probably get some of these players under NDA and test them early, like before they're out, to make sure that some of this stuff implements seamlessly and isn't just batshit overpowered or that breaks the game in some kind of way.
No, I completely agree with that as well. So the big topic, though, for today is that Yiska has talked to some sources who have access to Overwatch 1, access to Overwatch 2, and there's leaks there about the new abilities. But before we go into that, I'm baiting Curb. Before we go into that, have you ever wanted to talk to a journalist, but you're thinking, wait a second, my online security could be compromised. Maybe
they might find out who I am.
Maybe Blizzard will backtrace my IP address and find out who I am.
I don't want to get IP banned.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get IP banned. Well, have I got the product for you? NordVPN is sponsoring this episode, and you should try and sign up. Go to nordvpn.com/platchat or use code platchat, and they won't even know what country you're from, because you can launch up NordVPN, and just with a single click of a button, you can look like you're coming from Japan or Korea or France or wherever you like. NordVPN is genuinely sick VPN. I use it all the time for various different things, some of which I won't discuss. But It's a great product. It's a fantastic product. And if you stop making that face at me, sir, stop making that face. And they've been kind enough to sponsor our episodes recently as well. So go and check them out. Go and check out our partners. And if you ever need to talk to Yiska about something, then you should probably take a look at your online security, because Activision Blizzard will track you down and hunt your family for violating that NDA.
Players are gonna frame other OWL players now. Like they're gonna connect to a VPN and just like, oh, I'm Norwegian, and then Blizzard's like, oh, fuck this only god guy. It really
send your IP to a forest in Sweden.
Yeah, they know that there's only one person who lives in a forest in Sweden that has access to this.
Pin it all on Snillo.
Okay, so the NDA has been compromised. There are some new abilities that have been leaked, some hero reworks, some redesigns. I think there's no real reason to doubt the validity of this report from Yiska, because there'd be no reason to make this shit up when there are genuinely people who have access to the alpha at the moment. So, what does this article say? It starts out by saying, several sources have shared that the gameplay experience has held steady to Overwatch's profile while encountering noticeably fewer shields, which I think is a cool point that he actually brings up right from the beginning, that it still feels like Overwatch. It's just a more, FPS-y kind of Overwatch where you're shooting shields a bit less, which is a good thing from most people. That's what most people would describe to be good.
That is going to be sick.
So then the majority of sources, Yiska says, described a noticeable change in how the game plays, have pointed out the tank role to have been the most affected. So moving on though, Sojourn. Sojourn has left a strong first impression and is likely overtuned. She dishes out an oppressive amount of damage through her railgun ability, allowing her to one-shot headshot 200 HP targets. And her disruptor shot, which is a grenade-like field that also slows enemies in an area around it. So you slow your enemy, you can get an even easier headshot. And then she has a power slide, which is horizontal and vertical, which Yiska's saying in practice plays like a more fluid version of Exo Boost. Yeah. So not only vertical, but also like, I guess,
for the Apex players right now.
Yeah, I know. Or like a neon slide that they just added into Valorant, except you can also do it vertically too. That sounds sick. Like this hero sounds, probably busted, but even if they downtune her a bit, pretty fucking cool.
I read railgun and power slide, and I think about Quake. That's pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm stoked.
Yes, all the other 35-year-olds are going to be losing their mind for that one. I do think that overall she just sounds busted. She just sounds kind of busted. Like, when you have vertical and horizontal mobility plus a slow plus a one shot.
When you put it like that,
sounds pretty good, right?
That sounds pretty good.
She sounds very
versatile.
Fun.
Yeah, she does sound fun though. But
she sounds
maybe
like a
not
fun hero.
To play
she sounds
against.
like a good introduction, like for a new hero for the start of Overwatch 2, for like what is redesigning, like what we're redefining Overwatch to be, and like this more fluid arena shooter. I think this is probably the face of what it would be, of what you'd want.
Honestly, I'm not. Bren's just gone to close the door, I think, because there's some washing happening. There we go. I'm not opposed. I don't know about you lot, but I'm not opposed to having the model of new hero starts out a bit too powerful. Not crazy, but like a bit overtuned, and then they tune them down over time. I'm not opposed to that.
That's the game dev classic.
I'd actually, I know, but I know that a lot of the time it's like cynically, we want people to buy this agent or champion if it's Riot, but like you're not gonna buy Sojourn. They're in the game to begin with, and the beginning of the Overwatch League, I'd actually kind of like to see a lot of Sojourn being played early, just so you get a feel for it. I wouldn't be mad if it started a bit
easier to
overtuned.
balance down rather than trying to buff. Because sometimes you end up with, there's a thin line, and you end up with, you think of Sombra when she was introduced, and it was so tricky for them to balance her properly.
Yeah.
Even Anna as well, they thought Anna was undertuned, right? Because they buffed Anna after she was released.
Yeah.
And then she became like incredibly meta. So it's like you're on basically a tipping point where if you go too far over, suddenly it's just like, whoa, holy moly. People just hadn't quite figured out the hero.
Right, yeah. Yeah. What do you think? Would it be a good idea do you want to see a bunch of Sojourn at the beginning, Johnny? If you're on the desk and watching the games, do you want to see a shit ton of that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course. I think that goes for every time a new hero is released. I think that just makes sense. Keep the game refreshing, and whether it's been Echo in the past or Batiste before that, it's just like I think that it just adds another dimension to the gameplay. That's really fun to follow, and everyone's really excited about it. And we've been waiting for Sojourn for quite some time now.
So long.
I think everyone is just really stoked to see this in action. It sounds like, given what they're talking about here as well, that it's a pretty packed kit. I mean, if you can one-shot people like Widowmaker, I suppose, and then you have a slow as well and a vertical and horizontal movement on a 5-second cooldown. I'm like, okay, when do you need to play Cassidy? When do you need to play Soldier? So
sure. Yeah,
it
Soldier
seems
76.
yeah, so it sounds like we'll be getting quite a bit of Sojourn. I'm stoked. If stage 1 was just known as the Sojourn stage, that'd be cool. But if we're going to the mid-season tournament and Sojourn it turns out to be the best hero in Overwatch history, then I'll be like, come on, guys. Hello.
Sure. They did show a little bit of Sojourn in the past, right? With one of their what was it? Was it I can't remember when they showed it.
It definitely showed
was
gameplay.
Ages ago.
It was
but I
a
know
long
what you're
time,
talking
wasn't it?
about. It was the first when they first revealed. Was it at the end of Overwatch League or something?
I literally can't remember. It's been lost into the misty pasts. But yeah, didn't Sojourn have a thing where she had to hit her regular fire in order to be able to charge up the railgun, and that was the thing that did the one-shot headshots? Am I misremembering that?
No. I don't remember that.
I honestly can't remember.
What's that Sojourn? What's that BlizzCon 2020?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it was
are you able to find any gameplay of Sojourn that you could bring up for us? That might be a pretty hard ask because we can't remember when it was.
I think it might have been 2019, BlizzCon 2019, because that was the one I worked, and I remember them doing some sort of reveal there about Overwatch 2
I'm sure.
stuff.
Didn't they show gameplay?
They definitely showed gameplay at some point.
Oh yeah, here it is.
Here we go. Yeah, this is what I thought Sojourn worked a little bit. I thought the primary fire was fast-moving projectiles or something, and then you did damage to charge up the railgun, and that was the thing that could one-shot headshot. So you don't have access. My point being here that the one-shot headshot sounds crazy powerful, but you might not have access to it all the time. It might be something where you have to do damage to build that up, and then you have boom, and then
kind of sick though.
I mean, I think that would be a great mechanic to add in there, actually, because the better you are, the more you can scale that faster, the more of those shots you're going to be able to hit. That could be amazingly fun to watch. But I'm not saying that is how it works. I really don't know. I've just based on that tiny bit of gameplay.
I'm seeing some gameplay. You build it up, yeah.
Okay, well let's move on. Let's move further down this article then. For the Yiska article, moving on from Sojourn, Orisa. So we've got Orisa coming up, and then Doomfist. So I want to move on from this to talk fully about Orisa. Is this change going to make Orisa finally fun? Let's discuss in general. Orisa has been given a fucking spear, a javelin. You can do so many things with this thing. Apparently it's the ability called Energy Spear is a javelin that you throw and it knocks back opponents on hit and deals damage if they whack into a wall. So it is a bit of CC, but it's aimed CC, which I think is always better. That's what made Sleep Dart so good as well, because you can hit clutch shots, but it requires a level of mechanical ability. Then she's got Spear Spin that destroys projectiles. So it's a little bit like a defense matrix, but only for projectiles by the sound of it. But it also gives her additional movement speed. And then her ult sounds like something out of a MOBA. I've never heard of something like this in an FPS game, where it pulls opponents towards Orisa in a large radius, reducing damage taken as she becomes immune to crowd control effects and channels. So the longer the ability is channeled, the more damage is dealt. I'm not even sure I really understand that. It sounds like she just sucks people in, almost like a gravity well towards Orisa.
Damage over time.
And does damage over time, and you have to escape or burst her down, but she doesn't take crowd control.
Takes reduced damage
and takes reduced damage.
Control, yeah.
So you have to kind of judge whether or not you want to try and burst down the Orisa really fast or escape, I guess. It sounds like a really cool ult, though, for almost peeling. You know, if like the whole team dives on your backline and you pop that ult, they now have to decide whether they want to focus you or run away.
Thinking more generally as well, I always talk about this like the power fantasy of a hero when you play it,
right?
And keeping that in mind when you like are designing a hero. And with Orisa was always just, it felt like you should be controlling a death robot that should be crushing the skulls of your enemies. You know what I mean? Just like this walking unbelievable death machine. And she was always kind of just...
You're a horse that went...
Yeah, it was kind of just like a peppery...
She's a protector of Numbani. Protector of South Africa.
But, like a machine like that.
She's not the Terminator.
Sure, yeah. But you know, you want to feel powerful, especially like the way she looks. Like, you showed that to somebody who hadn't heard of Overwatch before. They think, oh my God, that's like I feel like that enemy's going to charge me down. And like, you know, maybe I've been playing too much Elden Ring. I don't know. But the
answer is yes.
I remember speaking to Scott Mercer at one of the like post watch what is it? Just the after party, I guess, at the at one of the grand finals.
Oh right.
And I remember just briefly talking about Orisa and saying, like, from my perspective at the time, I was like, dude, why would anyone? I was like, man, are you guys making changes to Orisa? Like, I can't imagine anybody would play her. And that was just a naive viewpoint because a lot of people really liked the way Orisa played in terms of just her being simple to play and still feeling effective.
Yeah.
Because she was like incredibly low demands in terms of the mechanics. Like
hard to feed. Yeah,
anybody could play her, which a large portion of the player base really enjoyed, apparently. She's like one of the most popular tanks in Overwatch 1. And I think these changes, obviously they add like more of the... There's two directions you go in. You either keep her like that, and you severely reduce her effectiveness so that she's not incredibly good at pro play, but she's still good at the lower ranks. Or you try and increase her skill cap, and then you change her in that way so that basically it's easier to balance her in line with the other tanks, I suppose, at the very highest level and in the lowest level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't make her very easy to execute and still balance her for pro play and
that's quite hard.
Low level,
least.
because
it's hard.
As soon as you, it's basically it's like, I'm not wording this very well at all, but also, again, just gonna put this on. I wasn't supposed to be on this episode. Thanks, Jack. The balancing act of making easy to execute hero and also its power needs to be kind of balanced in a way where if you have a hard to execute hero in terms of just the mechanics, then obviously you need to be rewarded for being able to do really well with it in terms of like your output, but it's not good. I'm waffling. Just get me off the show.
No, I mean that's a good point.
Get me off the show.
That's a good
get
point,
me off the show.
Bren.
I'm tanking out here. I'm tanking. I'm tanking. My material's not working. I turn him in a suit.
Oh,
he's bombing.
He's actually. This is what is it? The lazy duck or whatever this is.
Yeah, the lucky duck. I think it was.
The lucky duck.
Amateur comedy night at Plat.
Fucking hell! All right, Connor, Jonathan, give me some of your thoughts on Orisa. Does this sound at least cool?
It sounds cool, but I mean, I guess we'll have to figure out like what she does now, like what role she fills, because obviously, like they've removed very important parts of her.
I mean, they removed her shield and her ult. Her shield and ult are both gone.
She's not by any means like a slow shield tank anymore. She has a javelin that she throws. She has something that soaks up projectiles. So it just sounds like offensive Sigma to me, I guess. And then she has like an AoE ult. So I don't know what I guess it sounds like a cool kit. I'm just concerned like what does, like, if you play Orisa, like what are you trying to do for your team?
I view Orisa as when you look at her kit holistically, I view her as now she is an extremely offensive like disruptor type of character, because like, so her fortify she kept, but you get more HP while also taking reduced damage. So, and then her spear spin, which is replacing her shield, she moves faster and it absorbs projectiles in front of it and it pushes enemies away. So when I view that, I view that as like, if you're fortifying and dropping the spear spin, you're like, and maybe before that you throw a javelin, right? So you hit someone with a javelin, they're pinned against the wall for a second, they've done extra damage, then you engage really quickly. And like maybe
That
you have your
does sound
ult
cool.
ready, right? Then you have your ult ready, and then you drop the ult. And then like everyone's drawn in, and then what's that Jinmu up in the sky? He drops the barrage. Everyone dies in the fucking ult because it's all being drawn towards Orisa. It's like a grab almost, you know?
Yeah, it sounds a bit like a grab.
So like to me, I view Orisa now as like she's essentially an engage heavy brawler. Is like she's something that you can like do damage with, but also disrupt people, pin them down, like bring them towards you. She's kind of she's able to get into the fight and be a little tanky while she's getting into it. So, but afterwards, she might not be as survivable. I do worry a bit because, like, since she doesn't have a shield anymore, I wonder what her cooldown is for both the Fortify and her,
The Fortify is her ult.
No, it's not. Her
What?
ult's the Terra Lance, which is the thing where it drags people into you and it does damage.
She doesn't have Fortify.
It says at the top she only kept her Fortify,
She only kept Fortify.
which now
It just now gives her
also
HP.
gives
I
additional
thought it was
HP.
baked into her ult because she
No,
reduced the
no,
damage
the
taken
Fortify
in
is-
crowd control.
They stack by the sound of it, but we don't know all of the details involved. But yeah, it sounds like they stack. To me, I think
Here's
what's
my-
more important than even all of this is just, are people actually going to find her engaging to play?
I think
And
that a kid sounds cool as fuck.
me just
I think
reading
kid
that,
sounds cool as fuck.
I want to play Orisa.
Yeah.
Me just reading that is like, yeah, I want to chuck spears at people. Fucking yeah, I do. So
Also, I want to be
That
like a
sounds
little, I
cool.
just want you pop your ult. You just want to be like a whirlpool that sucks everyone in. They can't escape, and you don't take damage, and you can't get CC'd.
Dude.
It just sounds like a dick move. It just sounds
Gi-
cool. Like,
Give
it
me a
just sounds
fucking
cool.
blink dagger and I go in and smash that thing. I'm ready.
Does it pull people in?
yes.
Yes,
Is it
that's what
reverse
says.
polarity?
Pulls-
Is it Magnus?
It's
Essentially,
like a
yeah.
grab, but she takes less damage while she's doing it, and she can't be CC'd.
Dude, that is,
And the
she
longer
actually
it
does sound
channels, the more damage she
crazy.
does.
I
It sounds
want
awesome.
to
It
play
sounds
Orisa.
really cool.
You've got an Anna miles away just healing her up, so you can't even kill her while she's doing this. You pop your Fortify, you pop
Wow,
the Terror
you're
Lance.
thinking of that, but you're not including the additional variables,
Okay.
which is the enemy team's Dunslinger. Firing from the backline. Sojourn as well, just slowing them up.
Right. No,
Doing
that does
200
make sense.
That's why you need the
per hit.
blink dagger.
That does
Yeah,
make
that's
sense.
why you buy Blink Dagger first. Rush Blink Dagger. No boots.
But I think this is the exact rework they needed, though, to potentially make Orisa a viable character in Overwatch 2. Though you needed something that was going to be like you could have more impact and be brawly and not be stuck behind a shield, because shields in general are going to be a lot worse in Overwatch 2.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on down the list, though, we go from Orisa to Doomfist. And we had only just had the confirmation that Doomfist was a tank. And then there's this article that lays out the abilities and tries to explain what they are. I mean, okay, Doomfist has moved into the tank role and had his kit adjusted as well as his HP increased. Already in Gunba's mode, what had they done in that? Actually, I don't think Doomfist had even been adjusted in that mode, had they?
No, he was pickable
He
as
was.
a tank in the workshop mode.
Yeah, he had extra health or something. Anyway, I can't remember. That's kind of beside the point. Right, so Rocket Punch has had its damage lowered significantly, but receives additional functionality through another ability introduced in the kit. This new ability is called Power Block, which allows him to absorb damage for a short amount of time, and that charges the Rocket Punch's damage up to comparable levels as they are on live. So it sounds like you have to take damage as Doom in order to charge up your fist to one-shot people. Otherwise, it's just a CC mechanic, I guess, or like an engage mechanic to get closer to the front lines. Then Rising Uppercut and Seismic Slam have been combined together in the sense that Doomfist will uppercut at the start and then slam down in a much wider area to provide crowd control. And the damage has been described as moderate. So I guess Doomfist, they've kind of lent into him being a CC.
Or just a brawler. This big brawler that's
Yeah.
the centerpiece of fights. Yeah, I do worry a little bit, though, because it sounds like Orisa does what he does, but better.
Well, Orisa doesn't actually have a gap closer apart from the spinny shield. Like
Yeah.
spinny spear. Spear
Yeah,
spin.
but we don't know what the cooldown of that. If
But
the
it's
cooldown's
like-
quick, then
I'm just wondering, because Doom's survivability seems... They've increased his HP, sure, but he's not immune to crowd control. Like, if he's charging up a punch where he's just sucked up a bunch of damage, he's got a bunch of damage on his punch, he's charging that bad boy up.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that he has to take the damage as he charges it up. It just says he has a different skill. So it's possible you can take like a headshot and then Doom's new skill is like, all right, now you can just punch someone and kill him.
I don't know. It's weird because Doom had this like weird niche where you could do some really cool tech with him because the uppercut and seismic slam were separate abilities, and now it's like
Yeah.
You can't.
Sounds like those days are over, Bren.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it, right? But who knows? I don't know. My concern is they kind of shifted him into this role without. I don't know.
He will probably still have one of the most mobility of all of the tanks, though, because assuming they haven't changed his punch tech, you can still punch off diagonal walls, for example, and like
a diag punch.
Yeah, and engage super
that would actually
aggressively.
be sick.
And the uppercut seismic slam, it obviously reduces some elements that you can do. You can't, like punch into seismic slam. You have to do the uppercut first, by the sound of it. But I'm sure people will still figure out ways of chaining those together to get into weird positions or to find some like engages. They've certainly reduced some of the creativity, but he's actually been allowed to keep a lot of the crowd control. When you consider Overwatch 2 as a whole, they're trying to get rid of most of that. Yeah. They're trying to get rid of most crowd control in the game. Doom sounds like he's going to be pretty heavy CC compared to everybody else.
Yeah, I worry pretty significantly about this rework because it's like comparatively to every other tank, he seems incredibly vulnerable to like CC for engages and like getting out and stuff. Like when you compare it to like a Winston as a bubble, D.Va, you can like poke and fly in Matrix. Like there's a lot more options for other tanks to get out and to prevent CC, and Doom doesn't appear to have that currently. He has and then on top of that, they've kind of neutered his character in that he can't do all the cool Doomfist parkour is no more. Like obviously there'll still be ways to combine it, but you can't do it in the same way you used to, which I know people enjoyed about that character.
I really care?
Parkour. Yeah.
No, I don't really care because I didn't think Doomfist should ever been a character in Overwatch to begin with. I think like he was the CC mechanic of him. I didn't like. I never liked that part of his kit ever. I feel like it was just like starting from an unfun baseline. But I think moving into a tank role makes almost more sense for him because I'd rather him be disruptor heavy and engage heavy and he can lock people in place and survive versus he flies in, one shot, somebody flies out. That's really fucking annoying.
I mean, that might still happen depending on how the power.
But if it does happen, then I feel like you would probably have to be fucking up significantly more than you would when he was a DPS. That's how I'm looking at it. And also, how does his ult work? Like, is it still gonna have the same ult? Because if his ult is still the same, that is terrible for a tank ult. You want a tank ult to set up your team. You want a tank ult to be like something to help your team engage or to like finish a fight. His ult, just the meteor strike, sucks. Like it's not good for a tank ult. It's just another DPS ult still.
Yeah.
So
it allows you to like engage, re-engage.
But the thing is, if you
really
know the Doom, if the Doom
team.
pops ult, right, and you're like, okay, the Doom, and he's your tank. Like before, when you're like, okay, the Zarya has grab, you're like, okay, we're preparing to play around the grab. Okay, Doom pops ult. He pops to the fight, pops ult. Like the engage has happened.
But I think maybe this will end up. And again, this isn't very strong, but maybe it'll be used primarily as a disengage tool. You use all of your abilities to get in, set up your team, but you're not worried about dying because you ult away. It was still used in that. People still used it like that a bit in out, but not all the time.
But that's as like a DPS like ult.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Not as, like,
it's not
when
a
you have
strong
your solo
ultimate.
tank ult, like compared to Orisa's, where it's like
It's
now
not
you have
Terra
another
Lance.
setup.
No.
Yeah,
Terra
but
Lance,
also it's not grav. It's not even like a shatter or like a bomb or anything. Like you could maybe view it as sort of like a Diva bomb.
Yeah, it's a bit more like Diva bomb actually. Diva bomb itself doesn't seem very strong in a world where.
But the problem is he has to recommit himself into the fight for that ult while Diva's just throwing her mech, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of fine. I mean, the design about Doomfist is he's like a martial art combo kind of character, right? You're able to go in, go out. You're able to, throw punches and slam around. And like, I think that's fine. If he's supposed to be like a dive hero, sort of similar to Wrecking Ball then, I suppose, and you're able to navigate the fights and navigate the map like a lot, I think that's kind of fine. You don't need to be this big ult-centric tank hero. There are certain DPS heroes that are like very reliant on their ultimate, like Genji. You want to charge that blade, and that's like the one big thing really compared to his shuriken damage. And then there are other DPS characters with like, I mean, Widowmaker might be a poor example, but like Widowmaker's ultimate doesn't affect like her main kit. She still just like shoots, right? And so I think it's fine to have a tank that doesn't revolve around the ultimate, and maybe it just enhances the way he engages or disengages like a little bit.
You've mentioned the base design being kind of like a fighting game inspiration. What if you gave his ultimate was a grab? and he gets in there, he
I think that would
grabs
be
one of
sick.
the other heroes and just starts walking off with them, and
I
the rest of
think
the
that would be
team
so
pummels
cool.
them.
Or if it was like Blitzcrank from like, well, I guess that's a hook essentially already for Roadhog. But yeah, like I guess it's a
You
hook
can hook
already.
heroes.
No, but I think like something where he can like he challenges them to a wrestling match and they grapple for a bit, you know, like something like
You guys,
They'll fly up together with the ult.
I just don't like his ult as like, because to me when I look at this ult, it views to me like then it implies to me that like they want Doomfist to be a tank but still do the same role that Doomfist does now, which means that he's even more annoying. And that to me is not, I don't like
what
that
if they
feedback.
turned his ult into an Orisa pull? Because they removed it.
I don't
Like,
know.
as in, it still has a damage, but they turned it into an Orisa pull, so you can use it to set up plays.
What?
I mean, but then that just sounds heinously strong.
Yeah, but the
Because you can
entire
just global
it sounds like their
deploy.
entire philosophy with Doomfist is like, fuck the survivability. They've increased his health, sure, but like his playstyle is not going to be the same as like using your punch to diag in, seismic slam, uppercut, and punch out, because I don't know how the cooldowns are going to work with that now that they've combined one of the abilities. It sounds like they want him to be more brawly and getting in there and just fighting over long periods of time and punching and staying in there, getting stuck in. Like that's their identity for Doomfist, I think.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
his ult kind of goes against that because it's so weak. Like as soon as you use it, you're off the battlefield. Your soul tank is missing.
And also, there you have a visual indicator of where he's going to be at all times. Like, you literally know what he's going to be doing. There's no way to, like, set up something interesting. Like, obviously, your team could re-engage. Like, they could jump the back line, and then your Doomfist could come in, right? But the problem is that if your Doomfist is ulting to come in while you dive, there's no tank to set up the dive.
Yeah, there's only one tank.
So,
Yeah,
There's Doomfist.
like-
I feel like it's going to be mostly used to either escape or refresh cooldowns,
Right,
which
but
is
that's
a
what I'm
weird,
saying. What
it's
if
a weird position for
they
him to
removed
be in.
Halt because it's like it was a really powerful ability.
Right.
Like they were finding it difficult to balance, I think, as well on the lower end, because at low end people don't coordinate their shit,
Yeah.
but at the high end people always coordinate it. It's what made
Yeah.
Orisa so crazy. But if you add it into an ultimate, it's not so oppressive to the point where it's being used every fight.
Right.
It's just
Sure,
it's
yeah.
But
it's like
but what is your idea? He goes into Meteor Strike, and wherever he clicks
wherever
on
it
the
comes
map,
down,
a
it pulls everyone into it. It creates like a crater, and it literally like.
But then that's just
he
like-
fucking,
but that's
dude,
like-
how sick is this? He condenses gravity to fucking pull everyone in. That's
Oh, what's the counter to this? Because like,
What do you mean the
apparently
counter?
to-
He doesn't need a counter, bro. He's Doomfist. He's fucking punching shit. He's
I
getting
mean,
stuck
I feel
in.
like, I feel like there should
The
be a
power
counter.
fantasy, Connor. The power fantasy.
That sounds very powerful.
I don't give a fuck. Make him powerful. This is
Maybe.
Overwatch 2. Make everyone powerful.
Yeah.
Overpower everybody.
Maybe. Oh,
Okay,
well, I wanted
well,
to ask this question, right? Connor, you were talking earlier about Doomfist being susceptible to CC. What CC are we actually worried about Doomfist running into in Overwatch 2?
mostly.
What, sorry?
Well, it's pretty much Sombra.
Well,
Sombra has a hack that disables abilities for 1 second, right? That was we don't know this for a fact, but that was the like patch that the pros had originally played on when they first play tested it. That's what made it into Gumba's
They also
workshop.
take like 50% more damage while hacked, right?
Yeah.
Cassidy
true.
still has a very short stun, right, with a flashbang. He can interrupt with it.
We don't know that. Like,
I think they said that.
Did they?
In one of the
they
videos,
claim?
didn't they say that like when they were talking about the reductions of CC across the board, they were like, I think they mentioned Cassidy's flashbang as like being shortened to the point where you can interrupt abilities,
Oh, I
but
see.
it doesn't like lock you down for long periods of time.
Right. So,
I think.
but it feels like the CC is going in a direction where Doom would get interrupted more so than like stopped for long periods of time. But I guess an interrupt on a punch really does screw you up if you
Yeah, it
do.
does.
And also,
Yeah,
if you
it's gone.
interrupt your tank for the dive still, if your whole thing is based around like your Doomfist setting up your dive, like even just interrupting them means the dive is boned. You know, like
Yeah.
everyone's like, there's a lot of options where like, and obviously that could happen to other tanks as well, with how strong Sombra is. I just feel like Doomfist and the way that he is playing, he's more susceptible to that than other tanks.
Okay.
So
Intriguing though. Wasn't there some rumor recently that he was like overtuned and the pros were using him a lot or something? No?
I don't know. I've only
I
heard
thought
rumors
I'd seen
about
that
Sojourn.
somewhere
I've heard
on-
no rumors about Doom.
Oh,
So.
well, maybe I'm talking completely out of my ass. Was there anything else in that article from Yiska? Or are we moving on to our next topic? No other additional heroes have made the alpha test so far. He means in terms of, he doesn't just mean there's only 3
What's the
heroes
next
in the alpha
article?
test.
What's the next
He
one?
means-
Can Shockwave sail paper boats?
What?
What? Oh, this article.
Oh, okay. It's like okay.
I think
see.
it's a metaphor. I think it's a metaphor. Let's move on to our next topic, though, rather than just ripping GG Recon of all of their articles. So there was a Q&A that was posted with Molly. And where was this? On Facebook or Weibo or something?
It was posted. I actually don't know where it was posted.
I have a feeling it was on their Facebook page for some weird reason. Yeah, I don't know why I'm thinking that, but I think I saw it on the Overwatch competitive subreddit, and it was like,
oh, it's on the there's a full interview on the Team Billy page. Apparently.
Okay, Team Billy. Yeah, maybe that's where I got it from instead. All right, so anyway, this was then translated, and Molly was saying that supports feel underpowered. The quote here says, "It feels less friendly to support players, and the pace of the game has slowed down," which is bizarre to me. But let's start with the support player stuff first. If the devs are saying, "Oh, we didn't realize that having one less tank would mean that the Zenyatta gets snacked on," then I guess we're just in the world where supports are going to be brutalized right now, right? Where running a flex support
That's
just
a big
means
concern.
You are dead.
Well, it's a big concern in general for the game as a whole. Not even thinking about pro play. I think from the beginning, people didn't want to play tanks because they found tanks unfun. What if they've now with these changes made supports unfun? And then queue times are also just as bad.
Because no one wants to play
Because
support.
no one wants to play support because they're getting snacked on. Like, that's a real risk of this. Although I think an easier challenge to solve compared to when they were trying to balance the philosophy of having two tanks, personally. Because I think you can make buffs to the individual supports that
supports
suffering.
have been fun in the past, so there's at least that to go back to, I think. Yeah, that is a bit of a concern, I think. It also just makes sense right now, I think, with the way that you would conceptualize Overwatch 2 with a single tank. It feels like supports would be the primary target. Going for a dive or getting a snipe off or something means you would want to take out the support line. You're not going to try and focus the tanks. The other DPS, you're going to challenge them, but more so to push them away. The supports are often going to be the target. What's the solution there? I mean, they do have that passive buff to make them more survivable.
Turn them into DPS.
You can't always, as a support player, just avoid taking damage for however many seconds before you take passive regen.
Unironically, turn them into DPS.
And they all just
or like actually change. This sounds like a stupid. I've used my one brain cell and it was earlier kind of take. But if they overtune supports to the point where they can now handle shit, they can take fights. You know, they can handle that.
But that's kind of like
they can hold it down.
That's like BAP, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, kind of like make it so that supports, like you either have supports with great mobility, so that they can escape away from threats, or you give them great offensive ability so that they can handle fights by themselves, or like not by themselves, but they're not so much as a sitting target, you know, waiting for help from the rest of the team kind of vibes.
That's kind of what Zen is though, but he's mega glass cannon-y. I mean, he can win a 1v1. If you're a really good Zen, you can win. It's just you don't have very much health to miss a single shot.
What if they had an ability with Zen where he deconstructed his body and split into two entities, and then it altered his hitbox so that if somebody tries to dive you, he literally like splits himself into twain for like a second. It's kind of like, I swear to God, I have not taken anything before this episode.
No, I know you haven't. I know you
but,
haven't.
But the
what if
swagged up
was
in a
able
suit
to
and
administer
you're telling
like
us
ether and just sleep at DPS 0 for like a minute?
But what if he like you give him to give him survivability, but it's not quite survivability. It's like at will he can shift his hitbox. So like somebody's aiming at the middle and he literally just splits into two, and he's still firing orbs from the other sides. Like he's still the same. He's just like harder to hit.
I think we should write this down and send it in.
This might be the weirdest idea I've ever heard for game design.
You gotta think out of the box with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's so far out of the box. Oh, I can't see the box anymore. I'm not even thinking about boxes.
You think about it, resources. You got health, speed, damage that you use to balance heroes.
Okay.
No one's thinking about a hitbox.
Kind of true, but also, how would you even control the two separate parts of his body?
You would still have control of both. It would just be harder to hit.
What are you talking about?
Like,
I don't understand.
They wouldn't. When I'm saying two separate, like Zen would be able to control. Like on your screen, you would see everything as normal. Like you're firing at your crosshair,
But it's just a hole has opened in your body for bullets to go through.
yeah. Basically, you like you scatter your body parts because he's using anti-gravity shit anyway.
But then what's the? But everything should have like a counter. So what is the counter to Zenyatta?
Well, it's like on a cooldown. It's kind of like Ray form, except he's not immune to damage. He's just harder to hit.
Yeah, it's just like it's
But how
something
is
to
he
help him when he
so
gets
you're saying
pressured.
so his hitbox is now on two sides of him.
Yeah.
Okay. So you split, and so what is the
Well, like,
damage
it
out? Like if you
scatters his
shoot one, does
parts.
it do the same amount of damage to the other part? Like
Honestly,
how much damage would you
Brent,
take?
that would in some ways make him easier to hit as well.
With
Because
some
isn't he
abilities,
just-
yeah.
Yeah, the more spread out he is.
But like if there's a tracer on him, and he like scatters his hitbox so that she can only hit a small section of it.
But he's still going to take full damage from each piece.
Not if they make it so that he takes individual damage on each piece of the hitbox. But that would be quite complicated.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to derail us because I know we all got places to be. We've got business meetings. So.
But this is madness. I mean, what you're discussing is madness. I think a better place to start from would be: does the passive bonus for the supports even help at all? Do you think if we're envisioning Overwatch 2 to be a bit more chaotic, are there even that many opportunities where supports take passive healing regeneration because they've been out of damage for very long? It doesn't feel likely.
No, I don't think there is. In fact, that's why I was making the joke earlier about like, the Brigitte of like, we've reverted to where main supports have only seen Brigitte gameplay, or like main supports will never be Lucio again. The more I hear about Overwatch 2, I'm like, Lucio's back, baby. Like, think about this. Like, how are you supposed to play any flex support with essentially you can't, like, aside from Brigitte and Lucio, like I think Brigitte, Lucio, and Mercy are relatively equal, but like when you think about how mobile you have to be and the combat value that you can get from Lucio, I honestly feel like Lucio is legitimately gonna be really good in Overwatch 2. Especially if you need to like, because also you can't really pocket a support. Like, yeah, you can pocket with Brigitte, but that can only do so much when you only have one tank. While you can just do the better thing where you can just run away with the speed boost, So I actually find that Lucio might actually be meta in keeping support players alive more so than a Brigitte will be.
We're winding the clock back.
Yeah.
So
because
many
think about
years.
it, like you can't, like when you think about it, if you're a Brigitte and an Ana sitting there waiting for a dive and you only have one tank and your DPS players maybe are off trying to set their own dive and they've set up the dive before you, they do the new Doomfist tear in reality, and now you're sucked into the fucking black hole, and then he lands on you, and then both the DPS players are there. Like, you can't win that fight, even with a Brigitte. Like, you can't, especially if you've already used a cooldown before.
And it's just about buying time to win the engagement for the rest of your team. Yeah.
So you know what's better? Running away.
Discretion is a better part of valor. No, I understand.
Yeah, and also having like a boop to like deny like an engage and having some extra damage from Lucio comparatively to Brigitte. And so like, I don't know. I just find that like Lucio might be a lot more meta than we think potentially in Overwatch 2. As for the passive stuff, I think that's useless if everything's going to be really fast paced. Though Molly does say in that same interview that he thinks the game is slower.
Yeah, where has that come from?
Which the only thing I can see the reason for that being is like, theoretically, with less players on the field, let's say someone gets picked by a Widow and you're a 5v4, maybe you just regroup all the time now, and because you have less tanks to like put shields in front of a Widow, maybe it feels like everyone's just waiting for picks to come back more or something.
This might be being determined by the best team in the region as well. You know what I mean? Like if Molly's taking having scrims and they're playing against a team that's just got a really good slow play style and they feel like it's oppressive, but that's just because the team they're playing against has figured that out. It's not the meta everywhere else. I guess that could be another solution or another explanation.
It could just be a team thing.
Maybe something lost in translation as well. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to assume that, but I could also, the other thing I was thinking with this is that when I was casting the workshop mode, it felt like the flow of the game where you have these definitive stop and starts to team fights didn't really exist in the 5v5 mode. It was so brawly that fights would bleed into one another. And the actual, like the ebb and, if you think of like the ebb and flow, like on a graph, you have these big peaks and troughs where the fights slow down and teams are regrouping and then the team fight really kicks off and it's like up here. But I find it really difficult to cast the 5v5 mode because it was like a slow build-up, and then sometimes the fight would just continue, and it would bleed into the next big definitive fight. maybe that's what he means in terms of like, if you're really good at the game, if you're the best team in the world, and you're scrimming right now, and you're able to spot those like, oh, we should be backing off, but like you kind of want to keep taking the fights. Like the fights probably feel quite prolonged, maybe, where you're constantly taking shots at one another, but the big advantages you're seeking take much longer to get comparative to Overwatch 2.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like
I could see that.
In your head
point
as a
of
pro
view.
player, you're thinking of like the defining moment to win a team fight, or like the actions to win a team fight.
And you're like, holy fuck, this team fight's taking 20 minutes instead of being over in 10 seconds. Yeah, I could see that aspect. The question is what you define as the game slowing down, because I feel like even in that situation where a team fight lasts twice as long, I suppose by some definition the game is slower, but there's also a lot of action happening in that whole team fight that lasts twice as long. It's just that you don't get the huge peak and then wait a second, another huge peak. It's interesting. Anyway, I don't know if we will really have the answers until the beta is released and we get to see games happening.
I think Molly is off the goop. I think it's on the calm down or something. They removed Orisa and he's like, oh, the game is slower. They removed her barrier. What's going on there? What's going on there, mate? I don't know. They'll fix it. They got 2 months. Maybe I'm just sniffing hopium over here, but I'm confident they'll sort it out.
Well, they don't really have 2 months before the beta. They have a month and a week? What's the date today?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's April 26th. So they have
26th.
essentially a month and a week until the public beta goes live, and then a week before Overwatch League after that. So
I'm on the hopium. I'm not worried.
I think either way, it's going to be fun at the beginning, even if it's crazy unbalanced. It's going to be fun at the beginning because it's going to be so new. And then you only really get bored of shit like a month in. And then by that time, hopefully they'll be patching, because they should be patching their beta anyway, because that's something they need to be doing as they gather feedback over the course of time anyway, and those will make their way into the league. So I think no matter what, it's still going to be fun to begin with. The hero redesigns look good. People are excited about it. It's in content creators' hands. They've finally got a beta. Like, all of the stuff they absolutely had to do, otherwise it was going to be a disaster, they've done. They've done
the game sounds fun.
They've done the minimum to make the launch of the game in late April, early May actually successful, I think, and hype. I think people are going to like it, just based off the very minimum stuff that we know right now.
We're a month away. Imagine like 1 week away from the beta. People are going to lose it, man.
Like Christmas.
Yeah.
Like Christmas, but in April instead of December.
Like Easter.
When's Easter?
It changes. It changes.
It's April 16th, I believe.
Why does it change?
It's a movable feast. It's based on like a Sunday in...
But Easter's like the resurrection of Christ, no? Is that not the basis of it? Or does it have like...
Well, I mean, he was kind of flaky.
Does it have roots in like...
Where did the eggs come from?
Pagan festivals?
I think most Christian dates actually have their roots in pagan festivals. I think
we are way off topic.
The Christmas dates are based on like Saturnalia.
I mean, this is very interesting. We should make it a topic.
We can start a theology podcast called the Council of Nicaea. Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
All right, well, that
was he in the belly of the whale?
What, sorry?
When was he in the belly of the whale? What date was that?
Mate, that was Jonah. That wasn't Jesus.
That was like Old Testament, wasn't it?
Christ. Dude, we've lost our Christian demographic. We've lost them. We've lost our Christian demographic.
God damn.
Was Jonah and the whale Old Testament?
Yes. Jonah and the whale was not like, fuck me. I'm not having this discussion. Okay. I'm not going back to Sunday school. It's too late.
You know, it's not possible to go inside a whale's stomach.
Yes, because they can only eat things small.
Their throats are very
like
tiny,
krill.
And their mouths are their mouths are built to filter.
I mean, also probably one.
So the Old Testament is a lie.
Never said that.
Well, we never said it was a lie. Listen, we don't want to lose the entirety of the Christian demographic.
We don't want to lose our Christian demographic. Definitely is a lie, but we're not going to say that.
No, you say lie, but listen. The religion is like a build-up of stories of
what are we doing in the episode?
I can imagine
what are we doing
I can
in
imagine,
the episode?
I can imagine, it possibly has its roots, when our common ancestors, very far long ago, sat around a fire.
Let's go to Bren's player of the week.
My player of the week. I'm just gonna say straight up, this is gonna piss some people off.
Is it Jonah?
This is gonna annoy some. This is actually gonna piss some people off.
This is gonna piss people off more than you tackling the origins of Christianity.
Well, that's just interesting.
Okay, yeah, but
like
this one isn't.
I feel like you shouldn't be offended at that. That should be just like the common curiosity of human beings should want to be met there. Sure. But I'm not gonna get onto that. This one, I sent you a name. this is going to piss people off, especially because we've got a bunch of Overwatch 2 news. But listen, when we get something more concrete,
just groaned.
When we get something more concrete, I'll You're not showing it? Okay, you don't have to show it. If
Wait,
you think
do you know who won Brent's Player of the Week last week?
No.
Miyazaki.
Well, look, Miyazaki. Firstly, the way my fucking speedruns are going, I'll be rescinding that soon. Secondly, maybe I shouldn't give it to this this individual.
Why?
Well, because
is it too similar?
Because it's not Overwatch related. People are going to be pissed.
Okay, what does Kurt not want to show? Now I'm curious.
It's just
Who
like,
is this individual?
if you thought Miyazaki was niche, like go 12. Just what's that iceberg meme? It's like at the bottom of the iceberg of Elden Ring. Let's
Okay,
just
but let
say
me
that.
explain. But let me explain.
Just do it.
Dude, pull the guy up. Let me explain this one, okay? Let me try and defend myself. This guy, Alter 4 JP4. This motherfucker, I'm telling you right now, this guy from Japan, the speedrunner, I swear to God, this motherfucking Giga Chad. He comes in. He's a speedrunner, right? I'm pretty sure he does speedruns in Dark Souls 1 as well. But he streams like once every 2 days. And this guy just goes live. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning my time. I'm in bed. I'm on my laptop. I'm watching. And he just releases to the world a brand new fucking exploit/blog that makes speedrunning viable. After the speedrun community was losing their mind. Elden Ring patch 1.02. They fixed the bug with the Royal Knight's Resolve doubling the damage of the ice hat shit that was causing all the runs to be possible with the under 30-minute runs.
I have
this
no fucking clue what you're
absolute
saying.
Giga Chad just literally shows up, streams for 2.5 hours, and does a fucking any percent run with this new bug, and just showcases it to the world. Refuses to elaborate. Just refuses to elaborate. Doesn't say a word during the entire VOD. Doesn't say a word.
Well, he literally just streams no webcam.
He just streams no webcam, no VOD. His bio, if you go to his Twitch bio, it says, "Please don't host or raid me." This guy just shows up and he just gifts the speedrunning community these unbelievable keys to be able to beat the game quickly.
Yeah, I don't want raid and hosting.
Yeah,
smiley face.
This absolute Giga Chat. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. And there's the Speed Souls Discord. I'm like, I've got the Discoveries channel open as well, just in case people are posting new stuff. He just posts a clip, refuses to elaborate.
There's some incredible parallels here with coming out of nowhere and blessing a community.
Unbelievable. Anyway, that's gonna annoy some people, but that's gonna annoy some people.
Well,
it's not going to annoy our Christian fan base. They're gone. they didn't hear it.
Holy fuck. I'm done.
Oh, Christ. Okay.
No,
That's us. That's us for this week. Episode 125 coming whenever there's more Overwatch news to talk about, honestly. We'll still be releasing our team previews. You can check those out. We should have 2 for you this week. And then, who knows? We might have 3 team previews next week. We might have an episode. It depends on whether there's Overwatch 2 juice that's being dropped or stuff about the league that we want to discuss.
We might be done. We might never release anything else. Goodbye.
That's true, actually. This might be the end. So subscribe to the channel, follow our Twitter, all of that good shit, and we'll be back with you regularly in the run-up to Overwatch League 2022. How about that?